The broadcast is live. That's great.
I have questions for you myself.
Cool.
That I've been thinking about today.
I don't know how I know if people are watching me or not. That's what I
know. I don't know if I know how people are watching either, but
I know we're live, Sam. So that's the one way I can know. So
I think she's telling me because I probably was just talking like I was talking before this went live. We're here with Ricky, who is my boss, and also your Meadmaker. Oh, well, you're my boss in spirit, but not in actual.
I'm your boss's spouse.
You're my boss's spouse.
Anyway,
my
here to talk about familiar
spiritual. Yeah. So we're here with Ricky the Meadmaker because we made Ricky and other people who aren't me made some Bragi. And we like to talk about that a little bit because this is, I think, the third time we've brewed this. And we wanted to kind of highlight that this is a special brew. This is a special brew to Ricky in particular and all of us in general. And kind of wanted to hear what Ricky had to say about it. So, hey, Ricky, how's it going?
It's going well. First batch of Bragi happened by a force of will. The second batch, there was a technical mistake made by someone. And so I was on parental leave, and then I came back from parental leave and found that in attempting to degas the Bragi, they were pushing carbon dioxide into it, and corks were popping out. And I really appreciate that people didn't want to disturb me on parental leave, but boy, would I like to have been disturbed so that we didn't disturb anyone who might be watching this who had the unfortunate experience of a cork popping out. So that is one of the big changes we made to this batch. They do not explode.
Yeah, so in case you are new to our company or hadn't heard this before, we are very transparent about our, the things we learned from brewing along the way.
We like to call them stinanks.
Stinanks?
A word for stinanks. It's from Homestar Runner. He doesn't have mess ups. He has stinanks.
You are the Homestar person. I knew you were.
Yep. We have stinanks in crises. So we don't tend to have things in the middle as a small business.
Yeah. So whenever something happens, we don't try to say you did it on purpose or actually, if something's really great, we'll be like, we think that was really great, but we just want to be honest about the things we're making and the things and what happens. And so
can I give an example of Psychopomp is one of our most popular meads, and it was doing okay. And then an assistant brewer who is now a classical composer somewhere, which is weird. I don't know if you can be a classical composer in the modern era. Anyway, he's a composer in the classical style. And one day he just forgot to turn the chiller on. And instead of fermenting at like 78 degrees, it got up to 96 degrees before I got there at 6 the next morning and turned it back down. And it was by far our most popular batch of Psychopomp. So we went on a deep dive of Belgian brewing techniques, and we've tweaked it. We've changed our yeast, but we have used high temperature fermentations for our fruit ever since. That's serendipity.
Yeah. So we're here to talk about Bragi batch number 3, and we do have some questions though. I see some people with heart emojis. That's awesome. I don't see who Facebook user is. If I had to guess, stuff, but I can't. Maybe Sam will tell us who that is. Richard says, sorry, not Bragi related, but what coffee and blueberry juice did you use in your bright-eyed mead? Ooh. That mead is fantastic. Definitely one of my favorites of any meadery, and I hope you bring it back.
Excellent question. So the coffee was originally, hold on. No, we're in the depths of time now. The blueberry was from Trademark Com, one of our literally our longest running partner. We've worked with them for 9 years now, and they're the people we use to source us just the crazy, wild ingredients, things that people are like, does that even exist? Raisin juice concentrate, for example, exists, and they got it for us. So Larry's my guy. Anyone who wants to go pro, I will give you Larry's contact information. His minimum orders are often like a pallet, so not something for home brewers, but really wonderful guy to work with. So the blueberry came from him. It took him about 3 months to source things to our standards. And then the coffee, we used 2 different coffees. One of them, I believe, was an infusion from our friends at Run Amok, but it may have just been the cinnamon we used that was an infusion from Run Amok. And then we used different roasters between the 2 batches, but I can't remember. I do know one of the things I struggle with as a coffee drinker and as a brewer is getting a roast light enough that it really brings the coffee flavor, because if you throw in an espresso, you'll get a moderate amount of coffee flavor, but you mostly get char. So we used to work with an amazing Vermont company that made a nitro coffee. We did our coffee chaos with them, and they would custom roast for us, a golden roast. And I had this dream. I was 90% of the way through building my own barrel roaster. I used to roast all my coffee beans from scratch, and I'd love to get back there, but Kelly put the kibosh on that because it has to, once you get to commercial scale, it's like all of a sudden it's like a boiler because of the temperatures it gets to. And she's like, having you roast 100 pounds of coffee once a year, I'm not buying $150,000 worth of bomb-proof walls.
Coffee is a really cool deep dive. Maybe we should do like a coffee mead brew together sometime, because we do have a lot.
We do have an article about tea. I can't remember if I have an article about coffee. I've done
an article about coffee, because everyone's always talking about how to get the grinds in, like when to put the grinds in. But I
don't grind it. That's the number one thing. Don't grind it. Just throw the whole beans in.
Or the beans. But I always do
the whole beans. If you're sitting in that infusion long enough, alcohol will get right in there. And if you're worried like, oh, I lost coffee flavor, try making coffee out of the beans that are left over. It will pour like water. It's amazing.
That's
just
really cool.
5% ethanol. The extraction rate is insane.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I've made coffee mead with cold brew before, so that's another idea you could try.
That's another great way to do it.
Fun fact: cold brew takes out the bitterness of what hot coffee normally would have. So brew yourself a cold brew, super easy. Don't pay so much money for it at Starbucks. We have a couple of people. Yes, Lonnie Spitfire would like us to yell at them to wash the dishes. Thanks.
I'm not gonna yell at you.
Wash the dishes.
Washing dishes is its own reward. I was literally just telling the brewers today about how great it is to work in a space where there are so many different tasks. And we're training someone new on the bottling line. And I said, the position you end up on bottling, you might love it, you might detest it, but I guarantee it's the spot that the other 2 brewers detest. And the ideal is when all 3 people working on a bottling line or the 2 people on the canning line say to themselves, glad I'm not her. If you're really happy that you're working in the front and not in the back, hi, Steve Martin. Steve Martin.
Steve, probably. I can't.
Gotta be. I'm going to give a shout out to our Steve that he has been coming in. We've been doing a dad's hangout, and some of the bottles that
really.
Yes, we've been
doing. I didn't know that.
Well, this is top secret.
I didn't know he was one of the dads, though.
What? Oh my gosh, he's like the other dad. And then our friend Dan has been making it from time to time. But yes, we've been doing Ancient Collection together. So the Ancient Collection, for years and years and years, we only made craft mead because there was no one else making it. And everyone had honey wines, basically. That was it. If you were a home brewer, you might have strong mead. You might have made a craft mead. Basic Brewing Radio did a lot to create the idea of what we now call craft mead, like a session mead. It existed, but they really popularized it. And we just wanted to show people that all mead didn't have to be honey wine. And so other than one experiment at the old mead hall, and we never sold it through distribution, we had just stuck with craft mead until one day in 2020, I guess, we woke up and we were like, there are like 600 meaderies making craft mead now. Some like just a couple cases a month, some just kegs. Like we went from a world where there were literally 3 of us to somewhere between 200 and 600. And I was like, I get to make a strong mead finally. The category is defined and other people are doing that work alongside with us. And I remember sitting down, I talked with Jess, and we had a million ideas. I went into that. So I've only had an office for 3 months, the entire 10-year history of this company. I have a chair. My chair goes with me, but I don't have an office. So I just stuck.
That's a lot of people now. That's like the hybrid remote life now.
Yeah, except I'm
have your chair and it moves around.
The building that my wife owns. So Jess and I had a million ideas, and I found in my old office, they're all still written on the board. Like the 20 ideas we had of things we wanted to do. Cocktail boxes is up there, a whole bunch of things. And I went and I sat with Maddie, and I was like, Maddie, Jess and I realized we can't do it all. The one thing, let's pretend it's July of next year. The one thing we'll be disappointed if we didn't do is the ancient collection.
Yeah.
And Maddie gave a thumbs up. She does the numbers. I went to Kelly, and Kelly, fine, go for it. And I had been slowly working on it for 15 years. And then once we had the idea, I think Autumn came up with all the art in just like 3 weeks. Like once she got the kernel of the idea, the entire triptych, the flavors, everything just fell into place.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about sourcing the coffee. I wonder if we could talk for a second. And Sam, if you want to pop people's questions up, please go ahead and interrupt us. But I want to talk about the ingredients for Bragi. How did the ingredients for Bragi get decided, and where, kind of maybe tell us maybe the story a little bit about those specific ones, or like how to source them.
So I lived in Denmark for a while. What's funny is, as far as we know, I've been asking around for 15 years. I'm the only professional brewer that I have met who did not drink until it was legal for me to do so. But that did mean moving to Denmark at 20. Got in just a few months before my 21st birthday. So my first real experience of alcohol was in Scandinavia, so Carlsberg, obviously. And then the only thing I felt comfortable ordering at a bar was a whiskey and soda. And I don't like whiskey and soda, but I could order it in a pronunciation close enough that I would get what I asked for. But what I had a lot of was I lived with a family, and the flavors that go into Bragi are just so important to their culture. And it shows up in their food. It shows up in their Christmas cookies. It shows up in, songs. They talk about mead. Mead shows up in their Christmas carols, but also currants and elderberries are just staples of their fall diet. That was their vitamin C source for a lot of the winter. And so something that used a luxury good, which was honey, though oddly enough, of course, honey is on every grocery store shelf these days, but black currants have become a luxury good in the US. Long story about that. There's actually a TED Talk about black currants, the forbidden fruit. Jake and I both watched it. But then going down, that's where the elderflower comes from. That, again, just a huge part of their cuisine and drink profile. And I love the elderflower because it brings out the honey flavor, really helps it hold up against the black currant. And then the rose hips, again, I had rose hip juice with my little brothers every single day at dinner for 6 months. And then the funniest thing, and I even took a note, there's a thing that we refer to as twin primes. So in mathematics, twin primes are two primes separated by one even number. And there are an infinite number of them, but they're cool whenever you come across one. And the term was invented by C.G.P. Gray, I believe, of Hello Internet fame, along with Brody from one of the math programming. And he said that whenever he's scrolling through comments on a YouTube video he's done, and they are literally touching, or they're allowed to have one between them, he refers to them as twin primes if they directly contradict each other. So perfect example for him was, I love your videos, but 10 minutes is way too long for my attention. And then the next one will say, love your videos, but dude, 10 minutes isn't nearly enough time to cover this topic. He said that was his single most common one when YouTube was still pretty new. This, 10 years ago, some of these are coming out. No one knew what the right length or what people's attention span would fall to. So we did a tasting in-house, and every single person on our team said, well, the only thing is you did put the juniper in, right? And I said, I did. I put the juniper in. My goal with the juniper is that you shouldn't taste it, but you should know if it's not there. So if you're used to Bragi, first and only comment I got directly from a consumer, love this batch of Bragi. Only thing is I don't get anything but the juniper. And I was just like, I don't know what to do with this. So it's the very first comment. I could back off the juniper. Still, it's complicated, but it can be done. But it was the perfect kickoff and a reminder of why it's so fun to be a home brewer and can be so stressful to be a pro brewer. Is I don't care if you don't like juniper. And I was just tasting it again on the rocks, and I can't. Oh yeah, I make slushies with it. We have a crushed ice machine. I know we'll get to what's the best way to drink it, but that's a long form answer. I've experimented with 1,000 different ingredients. That's probably not true. Probably 300 though. I go back through my brew logs, and what I do is I try to map the flavor, not the combinations, the best I can, so that I knew what each one of those things did, and that's where Bragi came from. I do love currants.
Great. So there's another question that I see. That's the one. According to all of Ricky's taste buds, all of Ricky's taste buds, not just a few, Ricky, which ingredient flavor is the most dominant in this batch?
What's really crazy, I don't know if anyone has a bottle at home and is drinking along with me, but the pie in the sky for me is to be able to have something that's this strong on the currants on the profile, because that's where the acidic bite comes from. If I close my eyes and pour a bottle out warm, it smells like the honey when we open the tote to start brewing. Like the honey is so strong on the nose. It's just nuts. And I almost slipped and said, we don't know how we did it. We do this time. We took, bless John Farmer's heart. He's really helped us take excellent notes on all of our batches. And anyone who reads my brew journal will see his fine work, because he couldn't put a brew sheet. He hand wrote a thing for me that I had to fill out. And then he was so devastated when he came in on Tuesday morning after the 4th and found that it was blank. And it's because Kelly printed out proper things for me. But I was like, no, I would have filled it out. It's amazing. I sent a thank you note. But anyway, no, we know exactly what we did this time. And a lot of it comes down to temperature control. We have only a handful of yeast strains that we use here, 4 or 5, but it's not the time for this. Next live stream, we will talk about the crazy tricks you can play with temperature control. So yes, black currant is so strong, but what you're smelling as honey is a combination of rose hips, elderflower, and the honey itself, because it's wildflower honey. So it really makes that honey pop.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what I see from a lot of people who are more advanced homebrewers than me is that honey matters a lot. The variety of honey you use just can really dramatically affect.
I mean, it's the same as grape varietals.
Yeah, exactly. And as a super amateur homebrewer, I was always just like, Costco honey's fine. Like whatever honey I have is fine.
And Costco honey is fine. If you are starting homebrewer, it's fine, but it's the one I recommend everybody start with. It's the same as when I used to work with brewers, home brewers, and brewers going pro. I'd say, I want to taste your Pilsner 3 times. Yeah, I can drink your Pilsner 3 times and tell you if you're ready to go pro as a commercial brewer. Mead makers actually get to live in this like cool spot. Cider makers tend to split on both sides, but like we're kind of like winemakers, in which would be like exactly what we're doing now. Like this batch of Bragi is different. Whereas a lot of beer brewers, when someone comes up like, oh, I really love this batch of your IPA, it's the same. It's always been the same. It's been the same for 45 years. The same IPA. I go to the same hop yards and I pick the same hops my dad picked. And you don't have to pretend as a mead maker, because we don't sulfite our must. So whatever wild yeast is in there, we allow to work alongside our cultivated strain. If you're a home brewer, go for it. All wild if you want to give it a try. It could get rangy. So learning to control that with temperature and your yeast. Whereas our sours, we do kind of go off the wall and let the wild yeasts have more play. Yes, I'm drinking two different. Yep, I saw that. Also, I saw Steve's Undercover Dads Unite. He's like the least undercover dad I've ever met. His kids are like everywhere in his life. So yes, two different glasses. You can see how dramatically different the color is. Same bottle, everything. This is just a slushy. This one tastes dramatically more like honey and flowers, and this one just smells like ice. No, this one smells like the cranberry cocktail that I used to drink when I was a kid with all the ice in it that I would drink at my grandparents' house. What I'm really getting is like that tart berry nose. So all of the ancient collection, anything in our craft line, if you ask me what's the best way to drink it, I'll give you a range. But usually I could say like my preferred way. So like Valkyrie's Choice, I always drink at room temperature, half the time out of the can, sometimes out of the glass. Half the time out of the glass. I don't know what's the remaining. I pour it on the table and I look it up. That's 4% of the time. Ancient collection, it is built intentionally to open up at, so not only is a bottle that's 3 days old and a bottle that's 3 years old, should they taste different intentionally, but they should be really different, whether it's a snifter, on the rocks. And that's where I was going to say we just did Ren Fair and we sold, I'm going to say the number because it's so preposterous. We sold 104 gallons of mead by pints. Like, it's just insane. And I brought them all down to my, Jess also has a tiny little Ionic. And I brought
They're all so great.
They're so great. I carried 22 6-ball kegs.
The cargo room is like amazing in that car.
But I brought 14 and a 5-year-old, which is a little hairy up over the notch of them all. But anyway, but we came back with 3 kegs of our ancient collection, and we were doing them with pump taps, which means they've got, the clock is ticking because it's not CO2, you're pushing them with oxygen. And so we just had like a tiny, like maybe a gallon of it left on draft in the kitchen here. And so everyone was trying it all different ways, like snifters, slushies. And I was like, this is so extravagant. Like, I don't bring ancient collection home. It's out of my price range some days. But that's by design. It's meant to be enjoyed. But it was really cool to have the permission to try it a whole bunch of different ways. And the only thing I didn't get to do with it that I wanted to was make cocktails. I really wanted to play with Bragi cocktails. I got to do Vanilla cocktails this year. And then there are some things that I just have so much respect for that I don't, like Summerfest.
Yeah.
I would not make a Summerfest cocktail. That was the work of 4 brewers and a distiller over the course of 3 years, and I'm gonna let that one ride.
Yeah, so there's a couple things I want to mention that you made me think of. First of all, from Richard, I am definitely a fan of Costco honey, but I use it mostly for my braggots these days. People keep asking us for braggots, and this is where I'm kind of going with this. We are thinking about it, but we need to plug a project we just did.
I literally got a text. The last text I got as we were starting this live stream was from Black Flannel Brewing. Our braggot is out. It is in cans.
Yeah.
We are doing collaboration braggots where our hope is to do every single one. Penny, glad you loaded the dishwasher. Every single one of the breweries in Vermont, if they're willing to work with us, we want to see what braggot they want to do. And the first one is amazing. I got a 4-pack as a gift, or a squealer, and coming soon to a special event near you. It'll be on draft.
Yeah, I heard that the Black Flannel, because I wanted to try it, and it's on draft in their tap room, but I'm not there. I work remotely from another country, actually. I'm going to come soon. I'm in Canada. I'm not that far. But I heard they were going to do cans soon.
Yes, that was what my text was, Jess. They launched the cans, and they were asking how many I wanted.
Cool. Yeah, I'm dying to try that. And then, bragging about Braggot on a Bragi live stream. Yes. All the wordplay. Love it. Let's see what else we got going on here. I think, I kind of want to mention about glassware because when I first met Ricky in like 2015, I was working for Alehorn. And I was the horn girl. I was all about like, why are horns better to drink?
That means something. Keep going. It's fine. Keep going.
And so then I was kind of like, maybe we should collaborate with Ricky to like design something. And I was like, Ricky, does the ideal mead vessel exist? And Ricky's has always been all about like, do what you want. There's no right way. If you want to drink it out of a horn, like there's definitely a particular experience you have drinking out of a horn. It definitely lends like in sort of a feel and a taste and a smell to the drink. But Ricky likes snifters.
So it depends on what I'm drinking.
Yes.
So I'm on a glassware moratorium and have been for 8 years. When we lived in Iowa, it's where Kelly and I first lived when we were married, though we're originally from this area. We started going to a restaurant supply store because I learned that I could get an entire flat of glasses for the same price as like 4 glasses at Target.
That's a good tip.
The snifters I'm drinking out of right now, like very well, we may have had 36.
They're nice snifters. They're like nice, the right thickness and everything that you would want.
Oh, they're wonderful. And I was buying them by the flat, and Kelly's like, this is insane. We had like hundreds of glasses at our house. So when we opened the mead hall, we only had to buy like, I think just like regular pint glasses. We had so much stuff. But no, I'm really into my glassware. We're not going to go down my feeling about cocktail glasses.
Yeah.
But what I feel is it's idiosyncratic. So I'm 6'4" with, I finally got double XL gloves to work on the canning line, and they still don't even fit. Like my hands are huge. And I love squared off large rocks glasses, but Kelly just doesn't enjoy them. They don't feel nice in her hands. So we inherited from her grandfather a whole bunch of really beautiful cut glass. And I'll use them for special occasions because they're prettier, and pretty changes your experience of a drink. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But no, I tend to do snifters when I'm tasting because their design is meant to help you focus the smell, be able to see them really well. But my preferred drinking vessel for most things other than cocktails on special glass is actually a 16 to 18 ounce oversized either Pilsner or glass flagon.
I feel like so my like evil marketing brain is definitely like we should take all those snifters you bought and put them on the website and just sell them and ship them out or something.
They're just plain glass. Autumn would paint on all of them for you.
Yeah, but you have a professional recommendation going on here, with pairing. Yeah, so there's something there. My evil marketing brain is going.
That's a compassionate marketing brain.
No, it's an evil one. It's evil. I've got two. I've got definitely like the angel and the devil. What is your favorite part about brewing, Bragi? Is a question we had.
That is an amazing question. And I don't know if there are any other pros on the call, but one of the things, we use the terms technicians and artists. And most people enter this industry as artists, and you only survive in the industry if you're a technician. I was unusual in that I started as a technician. I was really proud of my consistency within the framework of, honey always changes. And I'm super into my systems. And I finally, my parents finally were able to come up to visit recently. And I was in the back of my mom, who's not a drinker, but likes what we do. Maybe they're watching now. It's 4:30 on a Thursday. They're probably shooting a video somewhere. But anyway, but I was telling her, I was like, that machine behind me is doing everything that I used to have to do for the first 6 years. And we used to have to do 2 people. I now have a button I can push. There is nothing sexy about mixing honey and water. Just like it does not fill anyone's heart with joy.
It smells nice.
It smells great, but you can smell it from the other side of the room. We're going to come back to that. I just saw. I should turn the comments off because I want to come back to the dryer thing. But now it's way more accurate, way more consistent. I can push a button, and it does the thing. And that does not make me less of a brewer. It's just that I've always been a technician. So Valkyrie's Choice, we smell every batch of honey. We get a full printout report from our apiary. Every spec they have, they sample like every 50th thing. So we have pretty accurate sampling going through. The Nordic Valkyries, Old Wayfarer, I'm just trying to dial them in like a pro beer brewer. Bragi is the only thing that we taste every single day. We dial that temperature up and down. We put in a pound of this in a 500-gallon batch. Like literally, we're talking a pound of an ingredient. And we wait a day, we taste it again, and it's the last thing that we've got that, like, not the last thing, because the other ancients are like that too, but there's less to play around with, less to balance. And we don't trust that a pound of elderflowers picked fall of 2021 are going to be a pound of elderflowers 2022. Like, it's so subtle that dialing it in, or like this time we actually boiled the juniper and elderflowers rather than just doing it 185.
Okay.
And usually I wouldn't go for boiling flowers, but elderflowers are weird. They're different from all the other flowers, but the rose hips, we found a new way of getting them. They basically grind them to such a fine size. It's the exact same rose hip, but we could put them in whole and have the extraction, but we weren't sure what the extraction rates would kind of be. So, overcarbonated, yes.
Well, before we...
But I just wanted to say one thing. This is with dialing in. The final gravity, the dryness of it from a technical scientific perspective is identical for batches 1, 2, and 3. You are not wrong, Matvei. That is it. The second batch, the perceived dryness is so much higher, so much drier. Absolute same final gravity, exact same alcohol content. So why? And I think this is because of the treatment of those extra ingredients going in. So a lot of what we perceive as dryness is not sugar content, it's literally tannic content. And my guess is the way the juniper was added in the last batch, juniper being, I believe, fairly high in tannic components, or it could be the black currant. Different batches of black currant also has tannic components. This, maybe the last batch we got had higher stem content. So it created sort of like puckering feeling that you get from a dry red wine. That's an excellent question and something that we're hunting down. And another reason that I was really committed to like the daily, it was actually really funny. I meant to buy 4 pounds of elderflower after our first edition. It's like, it needs a little bit more. And I clicked the wrong button and I got 1 pound. And I was like, damn it. And I was like, Jake, do we put just the 1 pound in or just, he's like, dude, put 1 pound in, it'll be perfect. This is his new thing. He's like, his new thing is whenever I'm like, did we take a gravity reading on that? Yeah, it was perfect. Did we take a gravity reading? We did, it was perfect. Do you know what the number was? No, I wrote it down somewhere, but I'm sure it was perfect. Anyway, so, 500-gallon batch of something that's like, whatever this is, 14% alcohol. Somehow that 1 pound of elderflowers boiled up and added, all the difference. Like suddenly, like it just, the floral aroma pops. I don't know if it's because it was a flavor threshold or aroma threshold phenomenon, or if it was because maybe some of the other components that had been slowly, because this is in the last days of semi-active fermentation, we're dropping fractions of a gravity point per day at this point. So maybe there were secondary metabolites that were still being released. But yeah, between one day and the next, it was like a completely different beverage.
A couple things I want to point out about this particular question. So which batch is batch 3 closest to? And was this from the same causation?
Closest to number 1, number 2. Yes. So it tastes the most like batch 1, but the process is almost identical to batch 2.
That's really cool. And I want to point out,
whatever phrase you want. Go ahead.
Just to manage expectations, batch 2 was overcarbonated. These are not like these are not carbonated meats right now
at all. Yes,
yeah.
that was a misunderstanding of a degassing technique that I had been employing. And again, I really appreciate that they gave me my time at home with Eric.
Yeah, and then so I think it's important to talk about too how this is going to age. I just want to touch on this, and this can be the last thing unless anybody else has any other questions. But just how do you see this behaving on the shelf? Like, what's the best way to store it in your opinion? How is it going to change in flavor as time goes on? In your guess, your best guess.
Question. I assume it will age like I do. Jess mentioned that she met me 7 years ago, but I was 5 years older then than I am now. So it's really difficult to.
It's not even like straightforward backwards. It's like.
No. It's that most people live in 4 dimensions, 3 of space and 1 of time, and I live in 5 dimensions, 3 of space and 2 of time. I would try to draw it for you, but it doesn't work for human brains. So anyway, the answer is I would personally take a bottle of this and be perfectly happy laying it down for 5 to 10 years. It will be great after at least 3, but I believe it will continue getting better for 5. That has to do with the final balancing of the I think the tannins are really well balanced in this, and we don't add any tannins, never have. We have a new black currant supplier, the forbidden fruit, and we're really excited to work with them because they're going to be able to get us things with even higher seasonal variation, which is usually what people are working against. They want a really consistent product, but for something, I don't know if people read the blog, I do. It's great to read. We are making a real commitment to seasonality. I think it's one of the biggest things that our Western culture is missing right now. Is you can get a mango in Vermont any month of the year, and while that seems wonderful, it takes away a lot of the magic of the seasons. And I'm really, really into the flowing with what's available. We do it in our own house. I feel a little guilty having 2 little ones that basically go 3 months with almost nothing green, except a few frozen vegetables. But right now they're eating snap peas and things until they're sick, and wild berries and all sorts of things. And being able to commit to that, obviously honey, we just get a big enough supply that we sort of account for some of the seasonal flow with that. But syncing up with the fruit and working with smaller local farms is something that I'm super excited about.
Yeah, and it's interesting that we're talking about batches here because that's not something we have done traditionally in the past with mead. But like, with Bragi and the Ancient Collection in particular, and some other like Rumble and stuff, we've done it before where, we're signifying this is like a different batch because we are, relying so much on natural seasonal ingredients. We're not trying to homogenize the flavors from batch to batch. We're trying to keep the recipes similar, but like, I think it's really cool actually. And I lean into it a lot that, those who are following along and trying things, like there's a lot of you guys who have had Bragi 1 and 2, or maybe tried number 1 and are now going to try number 3. We say 1, 2, 3 because you guys are interested enough to want to know. It's really cool and like blows my mind. But also because like, it's just interesting to learn how these things are different. How's it going to taste? And so even though, this one might be the same as when 1 came out, if you were to do a side-by-side of 1 now.
Well, also because of the packaging. Usually packaging doesn't matter that much, but the ceramic bottles that we initially got, I'm sorry for anyone whose bottles.
Which you can see them. They were the black,
gorgeous bottles,
but they weren't good at traveling.
Going through the mail. No one whose bottle broke is as sad as I am about your bottle breaking.
Yeah, I wish we could keep those. They're really cool.
They were really cool. Anyway, it did allow for a slightly different oxygen absorption level. So those would age ever so slightly faster than things with our new packaging. And we do tea corks because they're resealable, and especially for something like Bonnier in about the 17% range. If you stick it in the fridge, it's good for weeks. And you can just do a little bit every night and not end up like some of the people at the Ren Fair. But it does influence the aging speed. And you can't beat, of all things, those metal screw-on caps that everyone loves to hate on are some of the best oxygen blockers out there. Don't hate on new tech. Anyway, yes.
Michael says he's super glad to see the seasonality in future batches. I love the little differences in each new batch. That's what being a crafted is all about. I totally agree. I love this. I love talking with you guys about the little differences as a positive thing, because it was something when I first came to this job a couple of years ago that was like a little taboo to talk about how batches vary. Because, it's all about being consistent and putting out a consistent product, which we want to put out a consistent quality, but it may not always taste exactly the same. And it's a really cool thing about our product that I love so much.
I want to give a shout out to 14 Star and Black Flannel. Both of them, their senior brewers, are super proud of the fact that you're like, this is my favorite blank. They don't do that. Like, it's been the same. Like, they want to get better every batch. Like, who wouldn't want to be better every batch?
Yeah, you don't want to get stuck having to do something that you're not, like, you've moved past it. You want to bring it with you.
So, things that we're working on. Wrinkly labels. We have a new technology. Again, the handcrafted thing. But what I want to say is I will put my personal seal of approval on this one. I like all of our meats. There are some, just like anyone has favorite children. But, I'll drink Valkyrie's Choice hops from every day. The newest batch of Nordic Farmhouse and this Bragi are the culmination of 10 years of commercial brewing. The wrinkly label was my fault. I gave up on labeling and sent it over to Jake and John. But they're the Nordic Farmhouse that's shipping right now and the Bragi that's shipping right now. Kelly basically had everyone who's brewed here for the last ages sit down and just compiled everything we knew and found like silly little things like fermentation temperature, as I keep mentioning, is a huge deal, completely changes the profile. And I found out that one time the fermentation temperature of Nordic Farmhouse had been set to the wrong thing, got written down, and people kept reviewing to the last one. It was basically a game of telephone, and it had the last two batches. They taste fine. They just don't have that funk that people are looking for. And this batch is everything that I want it to be. I'm I started off Nordic Farmhouse. I drink it all summer and turn it into gin cocktails. So I brought a case home, and I was just stoked by how this and the Bragi turned out, in the hopes that I can also say that in a year I'll be like, yeah, those were good, but try this one now.
Yeah.
But I'm still, this Bragi is really, I gotta just, John and Jake, absolute bricks. Like they were there tasting it all the time. John's really into his teas. Anyone who loves Smoke on the Mountain, that's 100% John. And the Be Proud is like, there's serendipity for you. He had a recipe and I was like, okay. And we brewed it. We literally could only get 15% of one of the ingredients he wanted. So we went hunting for the rest of it. We brewed it up with what we had. We were going to add it later. And he came in and tasted it because he was out for a little while. And he's like, this is perfect. And I was like, good. I was like, do you want any more orange? And he goes, no, I think this is perfectly balanced. So it's a combination of serendipity and thinking about it. But yeah.
We have this question. What did you learn from Oak Aged Valkyries choice?
So much.
It's okay. I think it's okay.
Am I allowed to say it?
Yeah, I think so. Do you think?
Okay,
so,
I'm going to do it. No, unless.
Yeah, I think you should do it.
Okay, unless Kelly or Maddie is watching this chain, you have 5 seconds to stop.
They'll never know.
Maddie went home to check on the fire alarm and rescue Eddie from under the bed. Okay.
Maddie's watching.
Okay.
Maddie, can we do it? We have to do it now. It's too much build up. Let's just do it.
Okay.
So,
Oak Aged Valkyries Choice is coming back forever, but in a partnership with a new brand. So we're going to be launching a whole new lineup, and we were going to tell you in like 2 weeks. But Oak Aged Valkyries Choice was our. Sam got me the numbers, like Rumble, Oak Aged Valkyries Choice, and I think those were the 2 most requested products we don't have. And when talking with this other company that really, really Bright-Eyed, thank you. Yep. So Rumble and Bright-Eyed, we are both will be coming back. Rumble is so popular that we're working on sourcing. Our issue was getting fruit to our quality, but Sean, who's in sales, actually is so obsessed with it that he's helping us get it so that whenever we can get the ingredients, we'll brew it like right away, and then it'll be here until it's gone. And then Oak Aged Valkyries Choice is going to be back forever with a new name. I won't tell you the new name yet. With 2 super cool meads that we spent the last, it must be July, because there was a boat parade on the lake near me. So we've been working on these recipes since November 6th of last year. And they're finally being brewed in the next few weeks.
Did I hear you say Bright-Eyed?
Bright-Eyed is also going to be coming back. But we need to find someone local that we can get blueberries from, because all of the ones
I didn't know. I'm finding out with everybody else.
Right now. No. So these are not like on our brew schedule. Okay. Rumble is a permanent if we can get the ingredients. So that's the new update, that if we can get the ingredients, we'll just brew it and it'll be available. Bright-Eyed, we will be getting blueberries and also, I mean, I could get local blueberries if everyone wanted to spend $118 a 4-pack. So finding something that, because part of feasting together is welcoming everyone to the feast. And that's another big thing we're working on is, as I said, like I have a couple bottles of the Ancient Collection in my house, but mostly what I drink are, Valkyries and Hop Swarm and our regular things. And we're actually working to have something that is a little lower ABV that people can enjoy every day for people of all different means. That's super important to me.
For Bright-Eyed, I'm pushing for another coffee mead for a while, but we are working right now. Currently, we're in a cycle of our tea series.
Yeah.
So, I think we need to finish up our tea series first.
I just brewed 2 new meads that we've been slowly talking about for the last 5 months. I did them on Friday because no one was here to stop me. So who knows? Maybe you'll have a coffee mead next week. I love
amazing. Cool.
Okay, coffee meads. The one thing is anybody brewing at home, first couple coffee meads we made, we knew that you could get extraction from the beans, so we just dumped the beans in the bottom of our conical fermenter. And that meant that someone had to go in and vacuum them out with a wet dry vac. So we have fixed that part of the process.
So many improvements every day. I don't see any new questions. A lot of comments. I think somebody said hi to Ricky. Terry Thompson said hi to Ricky from Facebook. I'm reading about time and personal identity. I should use you as an example in my paper. I don't see a name on this one, but I think I can probably guess who that is.
Is that app stuff? We'll have to find out.
Yeah, we'll have to find out.
That stuff. I'd love to be. Citation.
This is definitely a conversation that's up Ricky's alley. Does anybody have any last questions before we end this one?
You should go get it.
Give them a sec.
I'm so awkward about telling people to buy our stuff. I'm really good at it when I'll do it. Have a pint with them. No. But this one, if I'm going to throw my weight behind something, Summerfest and Bragi, I'm super duper proud of them. Just it was whole team efforts. I mean, I've never worked on a project that had 4 brewers and a distiller involved until Summerfest, and that there's often, death by committee. This was a perfect example of everyone being able to use what part they knew and then like putting their ego about the other parts on the back shelf. And yeah, I don't think this Bragi, as proud as I am of my work on it, was like 90 something percent me, but that last 10% that made it what it is, was just those little comments every day. I think people sort of back off around the ancient collection because I'm a bit compulsive around it. But no, I was really, really proud of folks just stepping up. And Jake being like, put it in. Perfect.
Before we head into Marshall's question here, Summerfest is sold out.
Is it?
Sorry. It is. It's sold out in a couple of days, actually. However, it did so well that we have plans to make more similar things. We do have one thing in a barrel currently doing a similar aging. So we're working, because that was such a hit, it takes time. So we're not scrambling. We're doing a very planned movement towards putting things in barrels. So
yes, you could tell them as soon as I tasted my first taste of Summerfest, I reached out to the distiller and got 2 new bottles. I won't tell you what it is.
2 new barrels.
But we got 2 barrels of something ready to bottle as soon as it gets the final approval from Mrs. Klein.
Gorgeous.
Justice's wife. Or Justice's wife, yes.
Marshall says.
Okay. This is super wild. Okay, first soda I ever drank was actually grape soda. But I don't drink any soda these days, so we'll ignore that question. That's not true. I drink 2 glasses of root beer a year. But there is a compound, and I can't recall the chemical itself, but in different concentrations, it smells like the following. And so this is parts per billion, parts per million, parts per thousand. In parts per billion, it smells like grain. So like when you are brewing a beer, that smell. In parts per million, it's actually used to flavor grape soda. And in parts per thousand, it's used as taco seasoning. And it is a very rare compound in which it has, I can't remember what it's called. Penny's on here. She may know the chemistry term, but it's like full something shift. Basically, it doesn't smell like more or less of something. It smells, humans perceive it as a completely different aroma at different concentrations. So I don't know if that's what happened there. But it can be extracted, produced, and it may be in the structure of yeast, which autolyzes, for all I know. But that is my only guess on what may have caused that, other than grape soda has like 100 different flavorings in it, and it may be that orange and flowers are some of them.
Also, shout out to Marshall, who just asked that question, who's in Anchorage, who probably buys our stuff at the Brown Jug in Anchorage, I'm assuming. We felt bad for Alaska because shipping there is really expensive for us. We were having to pass that over to the customer. I'm sure you guys are used to super expensive shipping over there, but that doesn't mean it's fair. So we looked into how to get at least a little bit of mead to some people in Alaska, and Brown Jug is a fantastic.
And now we do bush delivery
of ours. What's that?
We do bush delivery out there. For anyone, oh my God, my best friend from college, Carl, his older brother lived in the bush, and for those who don't know, the bush is mostly so far north that they have permafrost, and they don't have fridges. They just cut holes in the ground. And so there are people that are eating like caribou legs out of a hole in the ground. And this is not me being like making stereotypical statements. This is from Greg, who lived in the bush. And they could also be drinking our mead. It just blows my mind. They do air delivery out to the bush.
I have one question that I probably know the answer to from before, but forgot it. And this is probably going to be our last question today. Who is Bragi, and why is this called Bragi?
Jess, don't you have a bottle there? You could read off your bottle.
What?
Don't
Oh,
you
do I have a bottle? It's back there.
You could read it.
I don't want to get up. I have pajama pants on.
I thought you were a mermaid. That was the story that everyone tells. Before I talk more about it, so Big Nora, as we call her in our family, she was the eldest of the kids I nannied. She's now like 30 something and has a kid of her own. But my daughter is Nora, so we call her Big Nora. When we first came out, I would write these like the smallest font we could fit on our bottles or our cans, and she and her friends would have our mead and just like do epic readings of my like preposterously long story on the side of things. So I've just been, paring it down for years. But Bragi is a god that is associated with music and poetry and a variety of creative ventures, while all mythologies, Judeo-Christian, straight through Norse, the pagans, there's a huge amount of violence, things that modern individuals tend not to agree with. Norse mythology is particularly heavy on a lot of harsh, bleak, and violent. The world is going to end in an epic battle and everyone will die, even the gods. And it's nice to find lovable figures in Norse mythology. And Bragi is a lovable figure. And it's a good reminder that sensational stories always get told. And Ragnarok is foremost in most people's minds when they think about Norse mythology, and they think about, the Valkyries coming and picking up the slain dead. But the peaceful, farming, musical, skaldic individuals were the daily experience of a lot of the people in the Viking Age, and Bragi is paying homage to that. I am sure that people loved sitting around a warm fire, enjoying good food and good drinks. And humans 1,000 years ago, and 10,000 years ago, and 10,000 years from now, if we make it, we'll probably all love the same things. So with that, Jessica has disappeared. Thank you all for showing up at 4 o'clock Eastern time. Jess's weird internet went out. But thank you for showing up at what might be 4 in the afternoon for you, or lunchtime if you're on the East Coast, or Marshall with 5. Welcome back, Jessica, with 5, what should be 5 time zones and just 1 in Alaska. Thank you for showing up at whatever time it felt like. So any last things, young Jessica, before we
Yes, but we need to plug a couple of things. So Bragi is on sale to everyone starting now. This is our version 3. This is our Ricky's latest culmination of all of his mead making prowess. It is also in our very first mystery bottle box, which is discounted, and will definitely include Bragi and then a couple of other bottles that we'll pick for you. And then it's also in the DIY case builder, so you can go there and build your ideal case, and that comes with a discount too. So try some Bragi, order some mead.
Jess,
what? Yes.
It makes you a lawyer.
What does?
Building your ideal case. I did it for you. I promised myself one for you in this video.
I love it. Thank you. I appreciate it. That is a great place to stop. I appreciate everyone for coming and watching, and for Ricky for being here and answering questions, and for all of our customers. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Cheers.